If you're a property manager or you own the property management companies, you definitely need to process a lot of vendors' invoice and still put a charge back to the landlords. The biggest issue here is that a lot of us at some point definitely miss a charge on the landlords, which means we pay out of pocket. In this video, I'm going to show you why this simple process turned out to be so complicated for a lot of property managers. What property management softwares like Buildium, AppFolio want us to do, their standardized process, and how we're supposed to be using it so that you're no longer spending a lot of time processing invoices and making sure that you apply charges to the landlords. So let's dive right into this. To make this a little bit easier to understand, I'm going to walk you through exactly how the property management softwares want us to use it and why 90% of property managers end up using it differently. So start from the very beginning. We have a work order. Let's say the request comes in here. We schedule the maintenance guys, vendors over to specific properties. Let's say this all is done. Okay, we create a work order. Vendors have completed the work, they send us the vendor invoice right here. And this is where the admin work started. We have the vendor invoice in either our text message or Gmail. And once you have that, a lot of property managers will end up uploading that bills into their property management software, which is what we call the record bills function. And then after that, this is where a lot of us will wait until a certain date to actually issue the payout. Some vendors will know that in property management field is that they need that cash payment immediately. So we might also even process the payment immediately. And then after that, property management software wants us to either record check or EFT. EFT means that electronic fund transfer. So once it goes out, it's online transfer. You don't need to touch it anymore. Everything will be booked. If you need to do checks, you basically need to write a check and then update it in your software. And this is how you can complete the process. And after this step, then it basically goes into vendor bills on your owner statement. Now, the biggest issue is that even though this is a very standardized process on property management software, it doesn't actually apply to our day-to-day, okay? And the reason being is that for property management, sometimes we don't want the owners to see which vendors that we're using, because there might be some vendors that we're testing out. They're not regular vendors, they're one-time vendor. Or there might be a special pricing that you work out with the vendors that basically you get to keep the profit. So in this case, sometimes a lot of property managers don't want the vendors to be on rental owner statement and then do additional charges for their management fee, because it just creates a lot of back and forth communication between you as a property manager and the owners. This whole process means that there's no markup, and it's very, very challenging for you to apply additional charges in here. And this is why over 90% of property managers end up using the second workflow, which is this: paying the bills using checks to your management company. So now the check goes into your management company. On your rental owner statement, it basically just shows the charges on the landlord's account and it pays out to your management company. And then your management company now pays out to the vendors separately, so it can kind of create a bit of buffer between you and the landlords for exactly what's happening here. Now let's zoom out again. Look at the entire workflow again. This system shows that there's only 2 or 3 steps, but in reality, it's actually way more than that. We're probably talking about 4, 5, even 6 steps, depending on your team size as well. Vendor invoice comes in here. What's the very first step? The very first step is that we have to actually transfer the data into bills, because a lot of softwares don't allow us to upload the entire description from the vendors. Sometimes vendors have lots of details in here that just doesn't fit into our rental owner statement format. Right here, collecting the invoice to here, now you need to actually condense, or you have to give a little bit more context in the description. So one step is to receive. The second step is to add in more context in here. The third step is to create the bills. And then what we end up doing is that we create the fourth steps, which this will be paying out to your management company. Now, once we turn the bills into check for our management company, it creates the fifth step, which is we have to pay the vendor completely separately. And in this case, sometimes we might do EFT, sometimes we also do check, and this end up being captured in your QuickBooks Online, which is not even part of the property management software. So if you look at this entire thing, okay, you went from 1, 2, 3, 4 steps into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 steps. And this is why a lot of property managers at this point, when they're scaling the company, will end up hiring a VA, an accountant, bookkeeper to process some of the invoices here. which sounds right, but also adding additional layer of checkpoints that a lot of management needs to do. So I hope this gives you a clear understanding of why this ended up becoming an unnecessary, complicated process for a lot of property managers. And worst part is that imagine if you go through this entire process and you still miss out a couple charges on the landlords, they end up paying something out of pocket, and which will definitely hurt the profitability of your company. Now let's talk about how we can actually use AI to automate the entire workflow. And honestly, this is going to be a game changer because the way that I'm using it is that I wanted to make sure that we're removing back and forth admin work for the entire process. Meaning, whenever I'm thinking about rewriting the description, I want the AI to have the output format set already. And I want the AI agents to also be able to download, upload the bills so that I don't have to touch any of the things. The only thing that I want to do is that I want to verify the invoice can actually match the work orders. So this is the only thing that I'm not going to feel comfortable have the AI agent to process, because without any auditing or approval process, money will flow out just like that. So the way that I'm looking at this is very simple. Invoice comes in here, I just need to give a OK. So I'm forwarding this invoice to a specific email address to trigger the automation. Once I triggered it, the AI agent will now go into my work order, to my task, match everything together, and then once there's a match, we can actually create that bills in here. So I'm not dealing with all the back and forth, but if there's any questions, the AI agents will now ask me to kind of verify. Now, once this is all done and I give a go ahead, the invoice now will go up to pay bills. One really important step of this whole process is that I'm also giving the AI the charges that I'm going to give to the landlords and also how much we're paying out to the vendors from the invoice here. So once the AI has all the information, the nice thing about this is that I'm no longer worrying about any of this anymore. The next steps that I need to do is actually pay the vendors separately right here. Everything here is all going to be skipped because I'm not going into the system to record checks payable to the management company and then try to upload another invoice to pay the vendors. So entire thing gets skipped. All I'm doing here is to verify. So step number one, verify. Give the information about the markup. Okay, the rest now goes all the way to here. And when I'm paying out the vendors, now I'm doing the double check-in to see if everything's actually done or posted correctly on the rental owner statement. So I basically reduced 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps all the way to 1, 2, and then it's 3 steps. And that's how you're able to actually save a lot of times in this whole process. And that's why everybody also needs to be using AI agents to automate their entire accounting process. Now, another thing I want to mention is that you can also have another AI agents to be looking at this entire flow to do the audit and to actually pull the data and give you a very nice weekly financials. See whether or not you're actually profitable from the previous week. How to do it is very simple. Use the charge for the landlords that you posted to the rental owner statement minus how much that you paid out to the vendors. And this will give you a very specific numbers on whether or not you're profitable. And if you're missing anything, such as the vendor payment is more than the landlord charges, you know you have to go back and fix it. That's how I automate everything, and that's how I remove the entire thing, the human checkpoints in the invoice process. So if you feel like you're getting a bit of clarity on what the accounting flow looks like and how the AI solution can help your operation, use the link below to book a call with our team. Happy to share with you on exactly how we can solve this for you.